Hey everyone, it's Shrestha, and welcome to the Digital Shelf Insider podcast of MetricsCart. I'm thrilled to have you here as we kick off one of our first episodes diving into the insights and strategies that fuel success in e-commerce. Today, we are honored to have Gregor Moray join us. He has been leading strategic initiatives and cutting through the noise to uncover what really matters for brands at Digital Commerce Global. He was the e-commerce channel development director at Kellogg Company. He has led many sustainability initiatives working as a borough councillor, and that has led him to help CPG brands with the same. Whether you're just starting out or you have years under your belt, Gregor's experience and practical advice will get you inspired and ready to take action. So let's dive in, and please join me in welcoming Gregor Moray to our Digital Shelf Insider podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to join you and to be one of your first guests on the podcast as well. And I hope your listeners and the people that tune into the podcast get some value from what we're going to talk about.
Thank you for that. To give our listeners some more context, Gregor, could you tell us a bit more about your work in digital commerce?
CPG and FMCG now for 25 years, my entire career pretty much. I like to tell people that I joined CPG before I had grey hair, and now I've got quite a lot of it. I've been in digital commerce now, I think, for about 12, maybe 15 years, for a variety of different manufacturers and a variety of different levels. And most recently, I've been working with DCG. My business partner, Declan, and I have established a business doing digital commerce benchmarking. We work with manufacturers of all shapes and sizes across the globe, some of the big multinationals, as well as a few smaller, more niche brands as well. And we help them to understand where they're building great digital commerce strengths in terms of capability, where they've got weaknesses and where they've got gaps versus their peers, versus their competitors, and then how they could go about building those capabilities, and then what it would mean to their organization and to their sales as a result. And it's a fantastic thing to be able to do because it allows us to see across lots and lots of different manufacturers, see how different manufacturers are facing into the same challenges across different categories, across different levels of maturity, across different regions and geographies, and really bring together a lot of great knowledge and share it with the industry and help move people forward and help them satisfy their customers better.
Right, that's a lot of inspiring work there. And that brings me to a question based on a report that I read from Digital Commerce Global, the Amazon's most inspired brands. It says that about 64% of Amazon, brands on Amazon face difficulties. And given that we are in the holiday season, what is your take on that?
Yeah, and the report that we released earlier on this year is the result of our Amazon benchmark. We had over 80 manufacturers participate in it globally and tell us about the challenges that they're facing with Amazon and what they're doing to try and overcome some of those challenges. But yeah, one of the most staggering standout statistics in it is this number of 64% of manufacturers are finding Amazon difficult to deal with. And it's really interesting speaking to different manufacturers and trying to find out where some of that frustration is coming from. And then, to your point, how do you go about overcoming it, particularly with things like Black Friday and Cyber Monday and, the Christmas holidays and stuff coming up. The thing that we find when we speak to manufacturers is that it's not always just we find Amazon difficult to deal with. It's that they're basically saying, Amazon don't work with us the way that we want to work. So Amazon don't play by the same rules as other retailers, right? And they expect different things from their manufacturer, from their supplier base. But this is an amazing opportunity for manufacturers. What Amazon have effectively done is handed back control of how your products are presented, where they appear, how they target customers, how you sell them, how you market them, how you target your customers. They've handed back so much control back to the manufacturer, and the manufacturers that are really succeeding with Amazon are the ones that are taking that control back and then using it to their advantage through their content, through their search, through their targeting, their media, their prioritization, through their messages, through their calls to action, through their promotions, and if they're selling 3P as well, through their pricing, through their pack architecture, through their products. The ones that are really leaning in and taking control of that, all of those things that Amazon have effectively handed back, they're the ones that are doing really well. And then when you look at so you say, well, Amazon is an opportunity as a whole. It's down to the manufacturer to then seize it. And if you want to talk about with the Christmas holidays or with the seasonal things coming up, it in itself is a unique opportunity. When I used to work in a chocolate company, and we had in the UK we had a Tesco account manager, but we also had a Tesco seasonal account manager who jogged with Christmas and Easter and Valentine's Day and all of those sorts of things. And I think we're getting to the point with a lot of manufacturers now where what you need is an account manager who's looking after Amazon day to day, but then also one that's looking at Amazon seasonal opportunities as almost a standalone business and thinking 2, 3, 4, 6, 10, 12 months in advance. What are we going to do for Prime Day? How do we establish pricing and packs now in order to make the most of Prime Day next year? How do we make the most out of Christmas? What packs should we have? What promotions should we have? What media should we have? What calls to action should we have? And they should be using the non-seasonal periods to do A/B testing, to do test and learn, to understand the targeting mechanics, to start building that awareness in anticipation so that when the event comes, the customers are ready, they're there, they're prepared, and you can really seize control of it. The other thing that I would say is, I saw a piece of research recently, which I've been desperately looking for. Again, I kind of lost the link to it, but I really wish I still had it because it said a quite staggering number. I'm going to say it's something like 35% of all products that are bought on Amazon are bought as gifts. They're bought for somebody else. Okay. So I'm buying it and I'm sending it to my nieces, my nephews, my sisters, my brothers-in-law, my parents remotely, just direct to their house. I think you almost have to divide Amazon up into, we have a day-to-day business, we have a seasonal business, and then we have all of these products that are being sold as gifts to somebody else. What are the solutions that we can build to maximize those opportunities? So, to answer the question, I guess, yes, Amazon is difficult to deal with, but that's because they're putting more onus onto the manufacturer to do the stuff that retailers used to do. So if you see it as an opportunity, you can set yourselves up in any way you want to capitalize on that opportunity. You've kind of just got to choose to do it.
Right. Right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Uh, that brings me to the question. So we have the legacy brands and the early stage brands. So how does digital shelf monitoring play out for both of them differently?
That's a really interesting question. So again, we do a lot of benchmarking around digital shelf optimization. We do a lot of benchmarking around digital shelf capabilities. We talk to a lot of manufacturers. And when it comes to metrics, what we find is that the legacy brands, the ones that have been around for 20, 30, 50 years, they tend to still measure using output metrics. So output metrics being sales, being share of category, share of retailer, share of shelf. They measure profitability, they measure distribution, and all of those things are the really useful measures to have. But they're very hard to do something about. If you say to me, my sales last month were £20,000, I'm kind of like, okay, but what do I do about that? When we look at digitally native brands, when we look at some of the more mature and more advanced brands when it comes to digital commerce, and we've done the report around the most admired brand. I won't name names, but when you start thinking about those manufacturers that are genuinely good at digital commerce, they're not just looking at those output metrics. They're also looking at those input metrics as well. And they're saying, okay, these things tell us something that then drive action. So My sales last month doesn't tell me what actions I need to take. But if I look at an input metric that said my customer numbers have dropped in the last month, there is an action that I can take as a result of that. If I look at things like my average selling price or my average transaction value have increased, okay, great. Why have they increased? What can I do about it to drive that growth, to drive that change in behavior going forward? How do I maximize that better? We also see that with the native brands and with these more mature brands, they don't just look at individual metrics. They're looking at the entire ecosystem and they're looking at things holistically. Because, for example, your sales can be going up, but you can be losing customers. And that sounds quite counterintuitive in the traditional big store. Yeah, surely if my sales are going up, I must be getting more customers. But in digital commerce, that's not necessarily true. They're looking at how different metrics are connected in order to be able to understand, if I make a tweak over here, what impact does it have further down the line? And they're focused on metrics that firstly can always be actioned, and secondly, that can have a significant impact on their customers, on the way that their customers find their products and the way that they go about buying them. But first and foremost, they're focused on some of the really big ones. So it doesn't matter how great your content is. If you don't have availability, you can't sell anything. It really is that simple, right? So they're focused on, okay, these are my building block metrics. Once we've got them right, then we'll start worrying about everything else. But until then, we've got to get these things right. And they know what those metrics are. And interestingly, in most cases, sales isn't one of those building block metrics because it's an output, it's a result. If you speak to the guys at Amazon report their output metrics, but all of their teams are targeted on input metrics. They're targeted on all of the doing the right things that once customers have come to Amazon, it will result in sales. And the more mature manufacturers and a lot of those digitally native brands, they're the ones that are focused on those holistic full ecosystem metrics, and more importantly, the input metrics, than necessarily just what was my sales, what was my share, what was my profit.
Yeah. Uh, as a follow to that, I would like to know, say these legacy brands, they have operated in the physical store space and then moved to the digital commerce space. So does that have something to do there because the digitally native brands are more aware of the e-commerce space better when it comes?
Yeah, I mean, it is, right? So, one of the things that I say to manufacturers quite a lot is people invest in what they understand. Okay. I've tried to understand NFTs. I've tried to work out why a dreadful cartoon picture of a gorilla is worth millions of pounds because it's an NFT, but an equally bad drawing of a gorilla by one of my children isn't worth millions, right? And I just don't get it. So I don't invest in them. But my house is full of paintings. You can see one behind me as we're talking, right? Because I understand the art that I like and I buy the art that I like. People invest in what they understand. Manufacturers work very similarly because they have been operating their entire business for 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 years based on sales and share and profit. That's what they know. And they're trying to measure and assess and judge and build their digital commerce business based on the same things. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how their business works. It's how they operate. It's what they know. But as I've already said, you can have wonderful increases in sales in digital commerce. But then if you have a drop in availability, your business can disappear overnight. And a lot of manufacturers then struggle to understand why it takes sometimes 2, 3, 4, 6 months to come back to where it was just because they've dropped that piece of availability. And they wouldn't understand it because in store, if you drop availability for a couple of days, you miss a couple of days worth of sales, but as soon as you're back on shelf again, those customers that are coming through can buy. They don't know any different. But in digital commerce, you drop down the ranking list and it takes weeks to get back up again, and you've got to try and rebuild that strength again to get back exactly where you were. So you have to judge your business in different ways. I see a lot of manufacturers who will, look at their digital commerce business and say, well, it's not as profitable as the rest of my business. I don't want to be encouraging my customers to switch from traditional retailers into digital channels. Yeah, that's going to be profit diluted for us. We don't want to encourage that. No customer in the history of retail ever has walked past one shop to go to another because they think the manufacturer will make more money if they buy from the other retailer. Customers just want to be able to buy where they are. Your customers are online. They don't care whether you make more profit online or offline. They don't. They just want to be able to buy. So you can't stop them from buying there. Your customers are there. And if you don't take the sale, somebody else will. Somebody else will be standing in the wings, ready to take it. So the question is, do you want that customer, even if you're going to make 2, 3, 5% less profit, or do you just want to make no money at all? Those are your choices. And a lot of manufacturers are still quite late to coming to that realization, unfortunately.
Yeah. Uh, that brings the question that so there's the CSMART Framework of Digital Commerce Global, which stands for content, search, marketing, availability, robustness, and trust. Could you elaborate a bit? How does
So this was a piece of work that we did for a manufacturer a couple of years ago because they wanted to transition from looking at their digital commerce business in the light of sales, availability, and profit. And actually, they wanted to start looking at some of those relationships, and they wanted to start seeing how different things impact in different ways and how they can build a much stronger business as a result. It's not designed that you should, CSMART it breaks digital commerce metrics down into different categories. So there is a content category that looks at how your products show up. There is a search category that looks at different metrics that show you how your products can be found. There is a marketing pillar that looks at how easy it is for your customers to find you, or more importantly, how well your products are finding their customer. It looks at availability, so whether or not your product's actually on the shelf, digital shelf, ready to be bought. It looks at robustness, which is those financial metrics, so sales and profit and volume and things like that. And then it looks at trust, so whether or not your customers repeat purchase, whether they are giving you good ratings, good reviews, and things like that, whether they are actually buying into your brand or just buying your product. And within each one of those pillars, there are numerous different metrics. Now, the idea isn't you should try and measure all of them, okay? There are, I think, 40-ish from memory metrics that sit across CSMART. We're not saying you need to measure all of these if you want to be able to do digital commerce well, right? What we're saying is that there are interdependencies between each of these 6 buckets. And what you want to try and do is pick metrics for each one that are most relevant to your business and to your customers and to your objective. Monitor and measure them and make sure that you're always delivering in harmony. Because again, you can have the best hero images, the best secondary content, the best videos in the world, but if you don't have availability, it's completely wasted. You can have a situation where you're doing great targeting, you are winning every single search, you're top of the ranking list for all of your key search terms, but your PDP content is not engaging and your customers aren't converting. You can be building lots and lots of traffic, hundreds of thousands of people, directing them to a PDP page, and then people are dropping out. Similarly, you can have huge conversion, but if you're not driving traffic to those pages, it's completely irrelevant. So what it's trying to do is to show manufacturers that it's not just about sales, it's not just about profit, it's not just about availability, but all of these things working in harmony. You pick the direction you want to go in, you pick your objectives, and then you measure accordingly. Now, some of the metrics that are in there, they're almost kind of passive metrics, right? So once you've got them to the level that they need to be at, you should only review them when they fall out of the set threshold, right? So your availability should be 99% plus constantly. And you should only really look at that metric when it drops out of your agreed, your kind of your set guardrails or your set preset parameters. The same with order fill. If you're a direct consumer, if you are not at 100% order fill, you're not at 99.5% order completion, that's when you want to look. But until then, don't worry about it. Just let it go in the background. Have it be green on your scorecard and move on. Some metrics are for tracking progress. Okay, so you've set yourself an objective, you set a target, you want to monitor it to make sure that you're on track, but otherwise, there isn't really that much you want to do with it. And actually, within that, they include things like sales. As I've already said, my sales last month were 22 grand. Okay, what do I do about that this month? Well, you need to grow your sales. But the metric itself doesn't tell me how to grow my sales. All it tells me is my sales last month were or were not what I expected them to be. And then there are the metrics that you need to constantly monitor and you need to action them. Okay, they're important for action. And there are things like customer numbers. If your customer number changes week on week or month on month, there should be an action that you know what to do about it. If the number drops, we need to do this. If the number increases, this is what we're going to change somewhere else. The same with conversion, the same with customer acquisition costs. The same with things like average order values. If they go up, if they go down, you need to know what it is that you're going to do about them. Because if your customer acquisition costs come down, great, do more marketing, brilliant. But you need to know to do that. If you don't action it, it's completely worthless. The same as average order values. If your average order values somehow go up by 10% on the back of a marketing campaign that you've done or a promotion that you've ordered or you've put in place, right? Double down on your marketing, increase, do more, increase your sales as a result of it. The important thing is the action. It's not the metric. And one of the things that I say really often to manufacturers is one data point actioned is more valuable than 1,000 for interest alone. You mentioned earlier on that I used to work in local government. I did. I was an elected councillor and I led a lot of the customer service work, and we gained a lot of data as a result of it. And because of that, I was constantly being asked, it'd be really interesting if we could look at this. It'd be really interesting if we could look at this. And I always said no. I never measure anything for interest. I only measure stuff for action. So if somebody ever comes to you and says, it'd be really interesting if we could have a look at the relationship between these things, what action are you going to take from it? Well, I don't know. Right, I'm not measuring it. Whereas, yeah, exactly. You've got to prioritize, and it has to be stuff that you're going to take action from, right? So we measure customer numbers or we measure transaction numbers every single week or month. Why? Because if it goes up, we know we've got to do something. If it goes down, we know we've got to do something. If our marketing acquisition cost goes down, great, do more marketing. If it goes up, choose, prioritize, decide whether or not you need to do that marketing or whether you need to change the campaign. If we implement new content and our conversion goes up, great, double down on the content, drive more traffic to that product detail page. If it goes down as a result, go back to the old content, right? Everything needs to be for action purposes. And that's the point of CSMART, is the layout that it's not just about sales and profit and availability. It's actually about a suite of different things. Pick the ones that are most relevant to your business. Don't try and measure all of them. I'll look at how they interact with each other, how they work in harmony. When one goes up, does another one go down? If one goes up, the other ones go up. What do you need to do? What actions do you need to take off the back of them? And then categorize those metrics into the passive ones that you're only going to review when they change, the ones that you're using just to make sure that you're on track, and then the ones that you've got that you're going to sit down cross-functionally and review on a regular basis, and then take action and then hold people account to that action.
Right. That makes so much of sense. I'm sure our audience would also relate to this a lot. So coming to what we do at MetricsCart, we focus a lot on map violations as well as customer reviews. Uh, Customer reviews because the brand manufacturers need to know what the customers are thinking and like the read through the genuine reviews and make product improvements or improvise on their campaigns accordingly. So, uh, how do you see these metrics adding value to their?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing you've got to say is that without trust, you don't have a business in digital commerce at all. And we've seen a number of products that have been destroyed by bad ratings and reviews. And we can all name some of those products. We all know some of those examples. That doesn't mean that a bad rating or a bad review is going to destroy your product, and nobody should ever think that. But consistently bad ones will, and rightly so. The second thing that we need to understand is that when customers are buying online, it doesn't matter what platform they're buying it through, and it doesn't matter whether they're buying it direct from the manufacturer or from the manufacturer through the retailer, or whether they're buying it from a third party. The customer's transactions with you as the brand, the retailer, the provider is actually irrelevant. They want to know that the product that they're buying is going to satisfy their consumer needs, their customer mission, their shopper journey, that is going to be good value for money, that is going to satisfy and be relevant to them, particularly when they're buying gifts for other people. But overall, so trust, ratings and reviews in particular are hugely important. And going forward, they're going to become more important, because for the vast majority of products and product categories, within the next 5 to 10 years, digital generations will be their primary customer audience. And digital generations shop differently from traditional generations. My parents still shop in the same supermarket that they've been going to for the last 30 years. They shop there because it's close to their house. For them, proximity equals convenience. They could save money by traveling a bit further down the road, but it would cost them more time. It would cost them more in fuel. So actually, they've made that trade-off. Proximity equals convenience. That's where they'll shop. And as a result, they're hugely retailer loyal and brand loyal.
Yeah. I then also like the fact the touch and feel of a product
Yeah, very true.
on virtually.
Because that's what they have, what their consumerism is based on. You go, you look at it, you hold it, you take it home with you, and if it's not available, you get it the next time. But they're hugely retailer loyal, they're hugely brand loyal. My wife and I, when we shop, our shopping behavior is primarily driven by which supermarket can deliver to our house at the most convenient time. We have different baskets set up on different retailers. We repeat purchase our baskets mostly. And as a result, we're not retailer loyal. We're not particularly brand loyal either. We are loyal to the basket that we have previously set up. And if you're in that basket, great, congratulations, you're going to get lots of repeat sales. And if you're not, you're not. And so it makes us a lot harder to influence. My daughter has already written her Christmas list of what it is that she wants, and all of the products that are on it, she has discovered on TikTok, on YouTube, and on Instagram. 3 different generations of the same family, all shopping very, very different ways. We are a social culture. We trust other people a lot more than we trust brands or that we trust retailers. What customers want to know is, if I buy this, is it going to be good value for money? Is it going to satisfy my needs, my missions, my journey? Is it going to be worthwhile for me to invest my money into that product? And we trust other people a lot more in that than we do retailers or we do brand advertising or anything like that, because we get that the retailer and the brand have a vested interest in selling us the product, whereas our neighbors don't. Yeah, I take book recommendations from people that I know because they know me, they know what I like. I read the book, and generally speaking, I like it. And that's how products, and work. So trust, ratings and reviews in particular, going forward are going to become more and more important, because my parents go to find products in the store. I rely on the products finding me. My daughter's generation, even more so, will rely on products finding me, but also that other people have said to them that it's a good product. The whole kind of map principle as well is really important, because there are so many places that I can buy effectively the same thing now. I want to make sure that I'm getting great value for mine. And I want to make sure that I couldn't have gone somewhere else and got the same thing there significantly cheaper. Quite interestingly, I post something on LinkedIn every single day, and one of the posts that got the most traction quite recently is about a pair of shoes that I bought on Temu. Okay, because I bought a pair of shoes on Temu, and it cost me £17.30 delivered directly to my house. The same pair of shoes is available on Amazon right now in the UK for £40, and you can buy the same pair of shoes on a UK-based retailer website for £55.
That's the range.
Same product. Now, I know, because I work in this industry, that the Amazon reseller and the UK-based retail reseller are actually just buying it from Temu and having it shipped direct to my house. I get that because I work in this industry. But when I try and explain that to my mum, she doesn't get that. All she gets is, why is there a £23 difference there and actually a £35 difference somewhere else? I don't get it. She wants value for money. Now, if I'm a big consumer brand selling products across Tesco's and Sainsbury's, but also on Amazon and what have you, again, if there's huge price discrepancies between where I'm shopping, that's going to really annoy me. And if I'm in a store, I don't walk into a Tesco's and look at a product and then go to Sainsbury's to see the price there, and then go to Morrison's and see the price there, and then decide to go back to the one that was cheapest. Nobody does that. You just buy it where you are. It's convenient. But in digital commerce, I can open up Tesco's and Sainsbury's and Asda and Morrison's and Amazon and a whole load of other windows and check the price for the same price and to buy it from the cheapest one. So you need to have price consistency, and the map element of that. A lot of manufacturers are quite late coming to the whole concept of map principles on pricing and monitoring it and making sure that their pricing strategies are robust. Now, again, I will say here, obviously, price is the discretion of the retailer. What they choose to sell at is completely down to them. Manufacturers make pricing recommendations. Retailers choose to sell whatever price they want. I'll get the legal piece out of the way. Having said that, there has to be consistency in that pricing, because if there's one that is ridiculously high, it is never going to sell. Amazon price match. Everybody knows Amazon price matches. Amazon are not a price leader; they are a price follower. But manufacturers are still getting surprised and caught out that Amazon have crashed the price of our product. No, they haven't. They've just followed a deal that you have put somewhere else, so that they are maintaining price parity. If you're going to promote somewhere else, if you're going to reduce the price somewhere else, you've got to expect that Amazon are going to do exactly the same thing and then come back to you for the difference. If you don't expect that, it's you that's being naive. It's not Amazon that's trying to do anything to you.
Exactly. Right. This brings to the last question of this session. This is also the times the business planning cycles are happening, and a lot of hiring is happening. You mentioned about uh, businesses having the account managers and a separate person who manages the seasonal events. So, what message would you have for the traditional as well as the new wave brand manufacturers to excel in this?
This is complex, right? It is constantly changing. It is evolving. The levels of competition are different across different retailers. They have different degrees of maturity. So there's a few things that I would say here. I don't think I could narrow it down to one thing. There's probably sort of 4 or 5 things that I would say here. And the first is, when you're planning for 2025, write down all of the assumptions that you have built your plan on. Because I have never worked in an organization yet where we have exactly hit the forecast that we said we were going to hit, and where we've hit it every single month along the way. It doesn't happen. A forecast is exactly that. It's a finger in the air. It's a hope. It's an aspiration. We want to get to this by the end of next year. Wonderful. Write down all of the assumptions that you have built that plan on, so that as you go through the year, you can check and see which ones of those assumptions are still true and which ones have changed, and then you can take action accordingly. In digital commerce, because you have so much more control over the way your products are presented and everything else than you do in traditional retail, a 5% overperformance to plan and a 5% underperformance to plan are just as good or as bad as each other. because what they're telling you, they both occur for exactly the same reason. That is because one of your assumptions is wrong, or more of your assumptions, one or more of your assumptions is wrong, right? Your job at that point is to identify which assumptions were wrong and then take action accordingly. So if you're 5% over plan, find out why you're 5% over plan and then double down on it. Make the most of that opportunity. Go, okay, well, this thing's happened. Great. We can accelerate our growth off the back of it. Conversely, if you're 5% behind plan, find out which assumption was wrong and take action to correct it as quickly as you possibly can. But it starts with, you have to have written down the assumptions to begin with. You have to constantly go back and review them. There's no point in standing up, on a monthly or quarterly basis and saying, I said I was going to be at this point and I'm 5% behind plan, but it's okay because this is what I'm going to do going forward. You have to say, I'm 5% behind plan. It's because these assumptions that I base my plan off of are incorrect. Here's the action that I'm going to take as a result of it. But it starts with noting down what those assumptions are. The second thing I would say is that digital commerce is a bottom-up, cross-functional discipline. You cannot do it in silos well. And all of the manufacturers that we deal with, particularly the digitally native brands, they don't have marketing functions and sales functions and supply functions and finance functions and commercial strategy functions and everything else. What they've got is a business, and they work together and they deliver together. And the bigger legacy brands, they have to emulate that. We see in a lot of manufacturers, particularly when it comes to Amazon, commercial teams will say the way that I double my sales next year on Amazon is through bespoke packs, it's through range differentiation, it's through exclusives. But on the other hand, you've got supply chain teams who are targeted on dropping complexity in the supply chain, removing exclusives, removing diversification, standardizing as much as they possibly can. Those two objectives conflict with each other. It's not an intentional conflict, it's just the way it is. And neither team can succeed if the other team is rigidly going after what it is that they're trying to do. So you have to work cross-functionally. You have to bring everybody together. You have to review everybody's assumptions and say, marketing, you assumed this was going to happen. It has not happened. This has happened instead. What do we do in order to upweight our activity or overcome the sort of the drop in sales, whatever it might be? I would say the way that you go about doing that is to review all of your metrics holistically. So take that sort of CSMART framework, look at how different metrics interact with each other. Look at, if this goes up, this goes down, why is that? If this goes up and this goes up even more, why is that? What can we do to capitalize on that? But part of the thing about CSMART is it's cross-functional. It is about content is marketing, as is marketing. Search is a bit commercial, it's a bit of marketing. Availability is supply chain. Robustness is finance, it's also commercial. Trust is everybody, right? You review it. Exactly. It's an ecosystem. It's holistic. You have to look at it in the round and understand the interconnectivity of the different metrics. Review them together. And then the next thing is action, 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 constantly. Every time you do a review, right, what action are we going to take from that? Right, go away and do it. Next meeting, did you do that action? Did you do that action? What impact has it had? Right, next action, next action, next action. You cannot hit and hope, because there are so many people who are out there just waiting to steal your sales. They're waiting to cannibalize on your media. They're waiting to go, do you know what? They're directing tens of thousands of people to their product detail pages, and they're leaving all of these advertising spaces open. So we'll promote our competitor, much cheaper product on there, and they'll pay pounds to get people to their product detail page, and we'll pay pennies to steal them away. There are so many people waiting to do that. Third-party sellers, digitally native brands, competitors, challengers, everybody. They're all there, like vultures, trying to steal those sales away from you. You have to look at everything holistically, and you have to action. And then the final thing I'd say, and this is particularly relevant to your business, is you have to build partnerships, and you have to build confidence in those partnerships, right? I see a lot of manufacturers who will jump around between digital shelf data providers because when things aren't going right and you don't know what to do, the easiest thing to do is to criticize the data. You just pick holes in the data, pick holes in the data, pick holes in the data. The data is clearly rubbish. Let's go and get ourselves a new digital shelf data provider. That will solve everything. Guess what? It has made no difference whatsoever. You have to, data is data, numbers are numbers. The only thing that matters is the action that you take from it. Even if you've got bad data, you've still got trend. Even if you don't trust the actual number itself, you've still got a trend that shows whether the metric is going up or down. Action it. Work with your providers, turn them into partners, give them a vested interest in helping you deliver your objectives, bring them into your organization, make them a part of the conversation, build trust in the data. Because if you don't trust the data, you won't use the data. And if you don't use the data, you can't take actions from the data and you can't build competitive advantage from the data. And at the end of the day, anybody that works for a manufacturer, their job is to build competitive advantage for their manufacturer. So turn providers into partners, turn partners into confidence, turn confidence into action.
Completely agree with you on that. So I like how you describe digital commerce as bottom up cross-functional discipline and it's holistic. Uh, Given that, for our audience, how would you say that they can keep up with the digital trends that keep happening? Like whether it's Amazon, it's retailer based, it's brands. I know we can like say year on year or months or weekly. Every day it's evolving and it's quite fast paced post the pandemic. So
So yeah, I mean that's a challenge for every single manufacturer, right? And I'm going to come at this from a slightly biased perspective, but I am going to start by saying engage in benchmarking because it will show you how you're performing against other manufacturers, right? Look to the events that exist within the industry, go and listen to the thought leaders, engage with the people who have a different perspective to the one that you have got and understand why they've got the different perspective and what it means to your business. And then the other thing is really honestly that write down your assumptions, review them on a regular basis. We thought that this would have this impact on our business. As it had it, yes or no? What action do we take from it? Because while digital commerce is constantly evolving, while there are new channels coming in and out and new retailers and new opportunities here, there, and everywhere, there is actually, while everything is changing, there's actually very little change. We're still selling to customers through a platform. We may have media channels available to us. There might be new ones, but our core audience engages with certain media channels. Okay. Understand your customer, understand their consumer needs, their customer mission, their shopper journey. Sell to those things, satisfy those things. Find your customer, target them, speak to them, and then go back to those assumptions on a regular basis, cross-functionally, bottom up. This is what has happened. What do we now need to do about it based on everything that we know? One of the great things that I read a lot about Amazon, and I know a few people that work there or have worked there. Amazon talk about this concept of one-way doors and two-way doors, right? And a one-way door decision is one whereby once you've walked through the door, there is no going back. Okay, so if you lay down the capex to build a new factory, once you've laid down that capex, there is no going back. You are building a factory, right? There's also this concept of two-way door decisions, which is, we go through it, and if it doesn't work, we go back. We do something else, right? The great thing about it, because the retailer has handed back so much control of digital commerce back to the manufacturer, almost everything that you do in digital commerce is a two-way door. Okay. Oh, we've spent tens of thousands of pounds to create new content. We've syndicated it. Our salesman, take off, put the old content back on, try again. Yeah. We've launched a new ad campaign. We've done our digital retail media and the call to action isn't working. Okay. Change the call to action. You're not stuck. You're not committed to it forevermore. Once you make a change, if it doesn't work, try something else. A/B test, A, B, C, D, E, F, G test. It doesn't matter. Test, learn, experiment, try different things. Write down your assumptions, compare what happened to those assumptions, and then take some action accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a very value-packed conversation, Gregor. Uh, Thank you so much for your time. And we've come to the close of the session.
It's been great to join you. I hope I've added some value to your listeners. If anybody wants to have a conversation, follow me on LinkedIn, connect them with me. More than happy to have a conversation at any time. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to join you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Gregor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that's the end of our episode. If you love what you just listened, you can follow us on LinkedIn. And we also have a monthly email newsletter with the super exclusive e-commerce insights. This podcast is also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. Wherever you're listening from, have a great day. We'll be back with a killer guest next week.